Jema. So, this is a little, what shall I say, talk or on my recent experience of visiting three of the Saptapuris, as they are called: Maha Kumbh, which is Prayagraj, Ayodhya and Varanasi. First, let me put the context right. I didn't go to get any personal mukti because I have always felt it's a very selfish act. So there was no question of going. I mean, leaving aside whether taking a bath in the waters can give you mukti or not, but it's a very selfish act, personal mukti. Of course, mukti in the deeper sense as freedom of ignorance is from ignorance is very true and real. And I suppose that is what the whole thing meant. Because these three things, the Triveni Sangam, which is supposed to wash away your sins, is also supposed to give you mukti, and is also the nectar of immortality. So from a deeper standpoint, one can understand these three together, because the seven sacred rivers of India, which cover almost from the down south right up to the Himalayas, they are symbolically representing the seven streams that flow from the origin, which is the divine. And these are streams which flow from there, which give life, which bring everything upward, help life to nurture and grow and evolve, and ultimately carry it toward the divine. So these are the seven streams which, as Indian, it's part of our Hindu culture, and I've been brought up there that every time we used to take a bath, we were taught this particular shloka: Gange che, Yamune che, Kaveri che. So you're supposed to invoke all the seven rivers in your, not the bucket, but the lota, with which you took bath. So it was a very beautiful way of remembering that essence is water, and in that same water, wherever you are taking a bath, you can invoke, just like you do a pran pratishtha and in a wood or stone, you can invoke the divine, because everything has come from the divine. So too in water, the significance of water is enormous in Indian tradition. You can invoke the presence of these streams. And that's why, because these waters flow from that one consciousness, we have all tarpan done with water in hand, and you put it around and then you pray. So there are many rituals associated with water. Water is also a purifying force as such. So it is said that just like fire can purify things, but fire purifies by burning, almost finishing, whereas water purifies the surface dross. So even at the most outer level, water has a purifying property. It always had, even when the era of soap and all this had not come. You don't really need these things, but just plain water is a great purifying force. So if you look at the psychological and occult dimension of it, water is a purifier. And what really is purity? So if you again go back to the Sanatana Dharma idea, every one of us has a soul and a divine element within, but it's covered with heap of dust and mud of ignorance, partly because of the evolutionary nature of life, and partly because a lot gets accumulated in the course of our journey. It's like in the morning we go have a bath and go out to the world, we go on streets and we do work, and when we come back, we need to take a bath again, because again the dust and everything has gathered. So when we take a bath, not only dust is washed away, lot of formations, lot of things people have said, not said. So this was inbuilt within the Indian tradition that you take a bath in the morning. We couldn't imagine life even in the most coldest of climates that we will go out without taking a bath. So it was like a ritual, but a very good ritual. And then at night again you take a bath, because it washes away. So similarly you have that when we start, the soul starts on a journey, it starts in a state of pristine purity, which is, it's divine. So divine cannot become impure by its very nature. And the soul remains pure throughout. So there is nothing like wicked soul, evil soul. All that is all our confabulation. But it gathers dust, nature under which it is covered. So when you purify this, when you remove ignorance, then there is Shuddhi. And Shuddhi is equivalent to Mukti. See, the two things are so beautifully connected that if you take a ritual bath in the water, I am talking of the symbolic sense of the story. So if you take a ritual bath in the water, so there is Shuddhi. So many people say that your sins are washed away. But symbolically look at the meaning. Once these are washed away, then you have automatically Mukti. They are not two different things, they are two ways of looking at it. Shuddhi is the process, Mukti is the result. And with Mukti comes Amritatva. Because what is Mukti? You get rid of all the mortal elements which lead to errors, sins, what is called as sin, because ignorance is the origin of all errors and propensity towards error. And when these are washed away, what do we discover? The immortal element within us. So as a story, as a symbol, it's very beautiful when you take bath in the waters of the divine grace, love, light. Then it cleanses us of all the gross elements, and then when we are purified, we discover our own pristine purity, and that is also the discovery of immortality. So this is a beautiful truth behind it, but it has been presented. So India is a many-layered civilization. That's what we have always said, that the people who look only at the surface, so they will call it superstition, this, that, because they don't understand that we had a method of conveying the most abstract, deepest truth to the most common masses and bring it to the most common level. So the point is it giving a lie? No, it's not giving a lie. This is what also I felt. Because after all, there is a very big operating system within us which the simplest of simple use it. But we have lost it in the process of mentalization, and that is faith. So if you go with this faith, everything is possible. After all, if you pray to the divine with faith that may I be cleansed, may I be purified, then he does it. Ultimately, it is the divine touch. So there were a lot of people going there with faith. So there was no, for me, it was not about mukti, moksha, nor it was about purification, none of these things. So why I went was simply because Kavita, she had not been much acquainted with rituals, and of late she has been taking great interest in Hindu rituals. So she wanted to experience what Hindu rituals are about. She was also not there that I am going to take a dip and get mukti. So this was a kind of birthday gift, and I couldn't have left her at Kumbh, because Kumbh is notorious that people used to get lost there. So Kumbh is known for that. So I didn't want to lose her going anonymous, so I just accompanied her. But then I realized later on that this is the outer reason that my mind had given. But as I went through the journey, I realized there was a deeper calling. I was called to Kumbh. At least this was my experience. I can't say that everybody is called to Kumbh. And I was called to Kumbh for whatever reason, as some kind of an invocation of Mother and Sri Aurobindo for some reason. Because there was a number of meaningful coincidences, but one of the most meaningful coincidences was that, every month on the last Sunday, recently it was decided just 2 months back, that the Hindi Zonal Committee will have a webinar on something or the other of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother based on All India magazine. And the day I was to be at Kumbh, that was the day that the webinar date fell. So it was very strange, and it was based on something related to Indian culture, the 4 stages of life. So it was certainly not, all this cannot be just a coincidence. So I do believe that for some reason, something from Mother and Sri Aurobindo had to be read, something done in that light. It was like a yagya taking place quietly, silently in the Maha Kumbh area. That's how I believe it. And then there were a number of small little miracles which many times they pass unnoticed. And from the time, I believe many such things are happening to many people. That's what I believe. I don't believe it's something one-off phenomena. So from the moment we landed at Varanasi, we put our luggage all in the car, and as the understanding was with clarity that the car will take us straight away to Prayagraj. But we didn't know anything, so we packed everything, and suddenly, just before getting inside the car, we said, how much time it will take, Bhaiya? And Bhaiya said half an hour. So I was overjoyed. Half an hour, this some highway Yogi ji has made. So, but there was a trace of suspicion somewhere. So we asked him, half an hour? So he said, yes. Where are we going? He said, to the hotel. So in his mind, we were to be taken to the hotel in Varanasi, and next day we were to leave for Kumbh. So it was a strange thing that, we just spoke about it at that point and everything got cleared. So he took us all the way. And we had seen videos of 10 kilometers long lines, but okay, once you are on the way, you are on the way. That's how at least my logic works. Don't complain, don't look back, go forward. Whatever happens, we trust in God. So we went, and suddenly at one point, we hit the traffic jam, and the whole thing started crawling. It must have been about 10-15 kilometers short of Ayodhya, short of Prayagraj. Also because we went on the most crowded days. 26 January, which was anyways high security. Yogi ji was coming one day before or the same day. And 29th January, which is Mauni Amavasya, so we hit Kumbh area on 25th night, which was supposed to be the most difficult period. So you can imagine. But as the car was crawling, to add to the difficulty or the challenge, suddenly it stopped and it won't just start. So what has happened? He said, sir, petrol is over. So imagine you're stuck in the traffic jam and now with petrol over at midnight. But as I said, the helping hand of grace. This event happened right next to the petrol pump. Who could have engineered this? So he went, he had a proper, jerry can, picked up petrol and came within 5 minutes. Probably lesser time than if he would have hooked it and filled the petrol. And there I also saw the typical well-known Indian jugaad. Now you have got the petrol, how do you pour inside? So it took out a bottle, cut it like this, and that became a funnel. I said, yeah, that's it. That's what Indians are famous for lateral thinking. So he poured and we started. So police barricades, all blockages. So after a point, they said, no way, you can't go there. Nothing worked. But I must admit, the police people were extremely nice. Given that at midnight they were standing, God knows from what time, and I got down, literally introduced I knew that nothing will work because all VIPs and all this. So still I said, I'm an Air Force officer, I've been. So, but they said, we are sorry, sir, but we cannot, you have to go this way. So we went that way, and at one point it came to a halt. I mean, we can't go now inside that Kumbh area, which is now another 5 kilometers, and it's again past midnight. It's about 12:30 or maybe 1 o'clock, nearing 1 o'clock, quarter to 1. As soon as we stopped, suddenly from nowhere or somewhere, an auto rickshaw came. And this auto rickshaw, obviously inquiringly, and I told him we have to go there. Okay, I'll take you through some small routes. So this is the other side of Indian jugaad. So I said, but you're not supposed to take. He said, I'll manage. You just talk to the Daroga ji. So I went to the Daroga ji. Now here the Air Force card worked. And he said, okay, you can take like this. After that, it's your luck and his expertise. So we went into some road, which I obviously don't know where, and he went us through lanes. So there is always a way. If there is always a way, this I always believe, where there is a will, there is a way. So I saw a living demonstration, where there is a will, there is a way. So he took us through right up to the camp where we were staying. So actually, we had heard about 10 kilometers walk, we were prepared for it, and all the situation was like that, but we didn't have to walk even a single step apart from walking inside the camp area where we were staying. So it was truly a miracle of Mother's grace. But what I felt at that point of time was something else also. I felt that this area is being guarded, or there are beings, entities, benevolent entities who have been put to this work. It's like just their task is to help certain people whom they have their own markers. I don't know how they mark, but they single out and help people. And they come and they push auto or whatever in that direction. This was my feeling. I can't say that I saw a benevolent being, but it was a very clear impression that they come, do the needful, and they go because they're too busy, super busy in that Maha Kumbh going on. That night, 2 o'clock, obviously no sleep. There was a little bit confusion about the tent. But anyways, we didn't sleep till morning. Means 4 o'clock yajna started, and all around you can hear yajna and all this going on. But the strange part I noticed was that though I had not taken a wink of sleep, either of us, any of us, but I felt very normal energy. So I literally tried to consciously look inside that, am I not supposed to be tired? But I was not tired. And I think none of us was tired. So we got up. Got up means just 2 hours we would have stretched, and 2.5 hours, and whatever, little bit daily things. So we went out. Then the first thing I noticed as I stepped out of the camp, that there were a lot of places where people were giving free samosas and free tea, and they were calling you and giving you. There's something very nice, the culture of sharing and caring for everybody. Number of people, even in the morning, I saw people going in a constant. I can't just choose the word crowd for this. People are using the word crowd, and I must say, after visiting, this is just the wrong word. There was nothing of the crowd there. There were people, many people, many people. A kind of gathering I have never seen before. But nobody was troubling, disturbing anyone. I saw even when we were on the road, when we were stuck, there were people going with women, children, elderly, carrying their luggage on the head. I actually saw that, going bare feet. I have seen melas, I have seen people go to, holy shrines, but not this long, not this way, through the traffic jam. And if you looked into there, they were full of joy. In fact, we had a joke. We said, you see, those people we saw, the car has not yet crossed these people. If we didn't have so much luggage, we should have just gone along with that, because we actually never crossed them. They just managed to go. How did they go? So there were people moving. There was nobody to tell them, move straight, walk like this line, that line. There was no line. But everybody was just moving, focused on where they have to go, wherever they were going. No pushing, no jostling, no raising voice, nothing like, oh. It was such a beautiful feeling, very beautiful feeling. Of course, there is no comparison even remotely, but it was like people are moving literally for a darshan. This was the feeling. Very good feeling. All of them, their faith also must have, created an atmosphere, charged atmosphere. So there is a charged atmosphere that cannot be denied, whether it's just the confluence. Of course, Prayagraj is known as the mother of all Tirthas, or the king of all Tirthas. It's supposed to be the king who has 7 queens. That's how it's described. And the main queen is Kashi. So in India, that's how. So it's the place where Brahma ji, even before creating Srishti, so we can imagine to what extent Indian thought can go. He did the yajna. Now there is no space and time, but there is somewhere something, and what it means is that power of penance, his tapasya, he has put in Prayagraj. So that's why it's called as the king of Tirthas, holy places. And then the Triveni Sangam, we have already spoken about it, what that represents, so I'll not go into that. So we just walked a little bit. Then we contacted a boatman through somebody, and everything was very smooth, very nice. Normally you expect that people will fleece you or try to, take advantage. But everyone was so nice. There was something very exceptional. So gentle, so sweet. Not that let's extract our pound of flesh. These fellows look like, So we went on the boat, and that boat, of course, is beautiful once you are on Ganga, Yamuna. They are rivers that are so alive, and for me, Ganga is so, so alive. So, Ganga, Yamuna, and the mythical Saraswati, as they say. So, he took us to the place where the three are meeting, and there was a little boat on which you could do the ritual. So, I told Kavita, now here is your time. Your time starts now. You can do the ritual, because she was very keen to do some rituals by herself. So she went for the rituals, and in a way, it's very nice that they ask you to connect you with your gotra, means thereby all the previous generations. So the interesting part was my gotra, which I happen to know is Bharadwaj, who is also the rishi whose bhumi is Prayagraj. So when I said Bharadwaj, the Panda also smiled. He said, "Oh, it's like almost you belong to the rishi who was from this land." So, anyways, so that was nice. He did all the prayers, and then he said, "Whatever you feel like, you can give." Of course, there were little humorous asides to it, because he said, "How many Brahmins you would like to feed?" So 5 or 11. So before she could answer, I said 5, to make sure that, we don't spend. But it was very, very nice, very simple. Then, of course, the dip, and as usual, I of course didn't take a dip. I had not gone for the dip. I just threw some water, like water sports. And another thing that we noticed, they had a little place where the women, after they bathe, they can change. But a lot of women on the ghats didn't have that. So they were taking a bath and they were changing. Not a single instance, I'm talking of whatever I experienced during that time. And almost 2 hours, 2.5 hours we were on that, Not a single instance of anybody oogling, eyeing. Nothing. As if, everything is nice. I literally felt that you can't have any such thoughts in that place about people. I felt that, you just can't have that kind of thought. Of course, they have made very nice makeshift bridges, again Indian jugaad with empty tanks. All that was fantastic. They made so many bridges using literally waste material. That was something amazing. And then after the bath, we came back. Of course, there are some very humorous things that the boatman, no, one of the pujaris says, you put the money in the Ganges. So, of course, there is a hesitation that you put it, it's going to be a waste. So he said, no, this is known as Gupt Dan. So he said, okay. So you put the hand inside the Ganges and release the 500 ka note. And then that man picks it up and carries it with him. So nobody is seeing it. It's Gupt Dan. But it made you laugh. But the idea is nice, that nobody sees that you are giving anything to anyone. So it's supposed to be the ultimate kind of dhan, where nobody knows that you have given an offering. And it reminded me of what Mother has said. If you remember what you have offered to the divine, then the divine will have no need to remember it. And then you will have offered not to the divine but to your own ego. So as a concept, it's very nice. So these are concepts which get ingrained into it. We came back, had a nice lunch. All these camps and so much of free food, just unimaginable. But nowhere on the road we saw cleaner than Pondicherry Beach Road. Not one place where things were thrown, strewn bottles. So I even asked, how are they managing it? Said very expert of these Safai Karamcharis, the sweeper people are very active. But just can't be that, because you have to do it with a joy in the heart. I just can't believe. Not a single place, nothing was strewn. Lakhs of people moving around, free food, easily available. Ordinarily you expect at least some bottles, something people would have thrown. Nothing. It was something so striking. So lunch and rest, and then another miracle started. Suddenly somebody, of course, I wish to mention his name, but I won't, because otherwise people may start contacting. He had been listening to these talks, and he contacted. And he said, Dada, I am coming with some nice food for you. So we were in the state of Durvasa. in Draupadi's, because we had had lunch. Now, if he comes with fresh food, we can't have it, so it's not correct. But anyways, he got the food, and then the talk was there. Excellent internet connection. One can't imagine that. Later on, I came to know so many towers have been connected. So it was so excellent, absolutely fine. So the talk also took place from Prayagraj. Something of should have been there in the mother, and I take it as our part of the yajna in which I was called for this yajna. That's how I look at it. So that being over, the boy came, very promising boy. He's a writer and has his own publication house. He had arranged for a vehicle, but vehicle can't go there. You can't just drive a car there. So he managed a police escort. So there was a police escort vehicle going in front. Wherever needed, it could do the hooting. And I was sitting behind, all of us were sitting behind. And he just took us. We had no agenda, where we'll go. So it took us to one of the places which is called Samudra Koop. That's where King Samudragupta is supposed to have invoked, they say that invoked all the 7 oceans, but basically its depth is supposed to be, it's so deep that it touches the sea level. And you look into it, you can't just, it's an engineering marvel actually. And that's the place where Pururavas met Urvashi. And you see that they have nice frescoes made on the walls, very nice. And but beautiful images of the Puranic stories, very nice places, tents which were really high-end tents, where we had some nice tea sitting on that height. We saw the whole Ganga and the Triveni. It was an amazing sight. It's a truly speaking, it's itself a mystical experience. Then it took us to some of the places of the camps of these Rishi Muni Gurus, whatever, where one of them was the largest camp, and where all these people come in huge areas. Then the last camp he took was his own Guru's camp. So that was also a very touching little. By that time it was already 9. So his Guruji just asked me, he introduced that he speaks and all. So he said, "Oh, you're coming from ashram. Acha, tell me the essence of Gita." Very nice man, very quiet. Guruji, saint-like figure. Tell me the essence of the Gita. So I just said, all is Krishna mein. All is Krishna. So he said, "You are telling my truth to me." I said, "You asked me the truth here. Is the truth that I know." He said, "In few sentences, few words actually." I said, "In few words, the essence of the Gita is everything is Krishna. All is Krishna. Sab Krishnamay hai." He was very happy. Then he said, "Okay, since you are a learned person, seem to be a learned person, tell me something like a jnana." Obviously, it was a kind of half humor, half this thing. So I said, "Well, the only thing I have learnt after reading everything is that if you have read the Dhai Akhar, then you are learned. I am trying to read the Dhai Akhar. Dhai Akhar is the Dhai Akhar Prem ka, padhe so pandit hoye." So I said, "I am trying to read the Dhai Akhar." He said again, then he was very happy. He said, "You must have meals." They were offering meals to everybody, free meals, and one of the best meals you can have. You can't imagine mass production, but very high quality, all hygienic. Obviously, so many of us were eating. Everybody was serving with so much love and joy, and everywhere this was our experience. Beautiful experience. Night was so wonderful, peaceful. And then morning, of course, almost one felt that one could have explored, but then there is no limit to that. You need a lot of time, so don't go by watching all those, drone videos. you need real time to explore. It's almost in 50 kilometers or 30 kilometers area. You just can't explore like it's a superhuman feat to go all these places. So we were not interested also in meeting any of the gurus, saints, etc. But whatever mother took us to, we went there. Next day was the journey to Ayodhya. As I said, 28th. Again, all roadblocks. Because, why? Because, again, because of 29th. So I said, but people must be going here. Then I remembered that it is said in the scripture that those who go to um, Prayagraj must go to Ayodhya and they must go to Kashi. It's like incomplete without that. So we had not thought about all this, but anyways, so we went to Ayodhya. Lot of road blockage, but again very strange. The place where the sadhanalaya is located, where we are supposed to stay, is completely barricaded. It's in a way a little sad thing. I'll come to it in a moment. So again, we were supposed to walk, and there were a lot of debates. We have to walk 2 kilometers or 5 kilometers. All this was going on because police barricades are there. But a series of things happened, and we landed right at the Ram temple. So again, we didn't have to walk even a step except for crossing that little corridor of Ram temple before you enter the sadhanalaya. So this was again very beautiful. But it gave me a very mixed feeling because now the sadhanalaya is closed on all sides. I must say this. One side is the wall of the Ram temple. On two sides is police camp. And the only side which used to be open, which used to open on the main road, now all that has been taken away. And in that place there is the corridor. Corridor means you enter and there is a line queue that goes to Lord Rama's darshan. So actually there is no access. It's literally like you are living on the mercy of the police people. Every time you have to go in or out, you have to take permission, which is a very sad thing. And I'm sure whoever has done it, I got very mixed feelings about that whole thing. Honest statement. We are all very happy about the Ram temple. I myself feel that, it's a nice thing. But I felt somewhere that some kind of ambition or a grandiose element has entered, which has not taken into account the spirit of Rama. And I'll tell you why, because then when we went for Ram Lala's darshan, very big crowd, and you are literally much more than Kumbh Mela. Kumbh Mela you are moving because the road is very wide here. People can keep moving. Here the road is small. So people are much less, but you almost are going compressed. And there is a point where you have to come down the stairs and go up the stairs again, which from the point of view of visitors coming, common person, it's a most dangerous thing. Because one wrong step of anyone, everybody may stumble. That nothing has happened, and I pray that nothing happens. It's God's grace. But it's a very faulty design. You're not catering it for people to come in masses. You're catering to a VIP movement, because for them there is no problem. But for the masses and also from the sides, up till a point you have those railings. Beyond a point there are no railings. So somebody in middle is really crushed literally. And on the side there are ropes. If you are not conscious, you may just fall off. Again nothing happened. But that's sheer grace. There again, last moment when we were in the last leg, something happened. We didn't have to go down and come up. Went through the VIP shortcut and did the darshan and went away. But I don't know, I just felt that first of all, I understand it's the birthplace, so Ram Lala is the first. But then, without Mata Sita, I felt incomplete. I feel she should have been here, at least some temples should have been. I believe they are going to construct. It's not complete at all. But the feeling with all that, and then the way the sadhanalaya is almost like imprisoned. So you can't move in freely. They were planning a talk of mine or in fact a little camp, but they couldn't plan because people can't come freely. They can't go. Okay, now there is a lot of crowd, but even then, At no point of time you can come straight unhindered by police. This is not the spirit of Rama. Lord Rama allowed the commonest of person to come near him any time and meet him. So that commonest of person is, he would not bar people's way and do this kind of land acquisition, but that's up to, whatever. So I think somewhere politics, ambition, Rama's temple is all mixed up, but Lord Ram will take care. Hoyi hai soi jo Ram rachi rakha. I'll leave it at that. My feelings about now the fate of Sadhnale, I have already spoken about it, so I don't want to go more into it. But anyway, we had Ram Lala's darshan. That is always nice, always good to stand, go and have darshan. And then from there we went to Varanasi, where we were going to have the best of experiences. And Varanasi is simply amazing. I mean, not only the stay and everything, the people, the culture, it's known, it has three names. Kashi, the oldest city in India, apparently in the world, a city which is continuously inhabited. A city which last 3,000 years, you have evidence of continuously some kind of civilization has been there. And it has been kept also. If you go to the city proper, you have those small lanes. Nobody would have imagined motor cars, etc. And it's such a nice feeling actually walking through those lanes. So Kashi is the name because Lord Shiva has established the city as the theme goes, the story goes. And it's also a very interesting story that Lord Shiva, Brahma had 5 heads. So Shiva removed the 5th head, but people know only this half the story. The full story is that Shiva is, when he gives away Shakti for creation, it's a very fascinating story, must touch upon it. So Shiva feels lost, without Shakti he becomes like Shava. So he loses all his Shivatva and he goes down and he is become like an ordinary person who has no power, no strength, and he is moving around like somebody who is lost, like all of us who are lost are in that sense Shiva, searching for that Shakti who will liberate us. So he becomes like that. And then Brahma and Vishnu conspire that how are we going to bring him out of this state? So Brahma has a plan, or rather Vishnu ji has a plan. So what Brahmaji does, from the 4 mouth he reveals the Vedas. That's how the story goes. But from the 5th he says something which is other than what is there in the Vedas. Now this awakens Shiva. How can in this universe be something which is other than the Vedas? It's like something which is negating the Vedas. So when you don't see this side of the story, it looks very brutal story. So Shiva beheads that 5th head of Brahma. There is another story also associated to it that he is chasing Saraswati all around, but this is the other story. I am not going into all the details of the story. So he beheads that head and carries the head of Brahma, that 5th head, with him. Now what does it represent? It represents all that is against the truth of the Vedas. Veda is the embodiment of deepest truth and knowledge. So the origin of what is against the divine, the resistance, is also within the divine. This is the highest reconciling truth. You read it in the Life Divine. And this is the reason for it. Its purpose is to awaken. See, it's so strange. These stories are there, but you don't connect. In Life Divine, you understand that it is a deliberate plan, you can say, that the divine has allowed even what opposes him in this creation so that it can stir the human soul, wake it up, and it awakens to that fullness. But now Shiva has a problem. He is carrying this head of Brahma, 5th head. So as the story goes, when he is moving around, suddenly on Kashi, when he comes to Kashi, that head vanishes. So it is regarded as a place where you have again purification. But why this? Because that head represents that ego which opposes the divine. That's the other story of Brahmavaya. So this is the ego which opposes the divine plan. And you drop it off when you come to Kashi. So that's how Kashi. And the other name is Varanasi because two rivers, Varuna and Assi, between them is Varanasi. And the third name is Banaras because it's a place of ras. So from lassi to music, it's a many of the great musicians, I may forget the names, Bilayat Khan, Alauddin, many of these mystic saints, Ravi Das, Kabir Das, Anand Mahima, many of them have lived in Banaras. So they have their own gharanas and of course Banarasi sari, Banarasi pan. So it's a place of ras. And that I felt in people's, voice also, speech. I have lived there for 1 year, but as a student in BHU, you don't get to interact with the common person so much. All that we knew was the Shiva temple there and the lassi, which is so famous. But the common people, even the rickshaw pullers, with all that crowd, they're going around, they were not getting angry. And sometimes I just wonder, and we, when all the privileges are there, get annoyed at the least non-provocation. I wouldn't use the word provocation. But here are people tied with faith. They're living with such challenging situations. But they were not getting angry. Not one person. Nobody was trying to cheat. In fact, when the rickshaw puller and everybody asked money, so we couldn't believe. We actually felt, and even when we ate something, we felt that, is it really so? And then at the end we remarked that it's a cheap place compared to many other places, comparatively. And they were not trying to make a fool. It's very nice. The language was very sweet. And there was ras in the language. Bhaiya, Didi, very nice feeling. At least not the UP that I had heard of. So I asked some people that, has UP changed? They said yes. So I said, what has changed? So one of the things they said which has changed is that gundas are all over. And this I confirmed from quite a few people, and they told me, Babaji ke aane se, Babaji is the Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, all these gundas who used to, and their goons, like Ravan is one but Khardushan is everywhere. He said, they are all will do namaskar to you. That is the situation. It's a first-hand experience. It's so true. You just can't imagine. And people said that, all this Eve teasing, all this has stopped. Stopped means stopped, full stop. What a wonderful work he has done. I mean, I must say that I was deeply touched that you need such a leader. Whatever people may talk about him, saffron, this, that, at the end point, what matters is the work. And he has done the work, and that's what matters. So then, of course, we went to different places. It's also the place of Lord Buddha's first sermon, which he gave to 5 disciples. Rather, these were the people who had first left him. And then they saw the enlightenment. It's a beautiful story when, one day this Sujata came to him as one Devi, but that is an event which takes place in Gaya, and gives him something to eat, and he is in that very strict mode. I am only on organics, not even that. So she says that don't pull the string of the bow so much that it snaps, and don't leave it so loose that you are not able to you use it for firing an arrow. And that's got him right, that the middle path, that's how he understood. The path of balance. Mother speaks about this path of balance, the path of moderation, the middle path. Not middle path in the end, sense of compromise, but middle path, path of balance. Sri Krishna also speaks about it. And then Buddha comes. This is a place where he gave the first sermon, where he spoke about the 4 noble truths. Dukkham, the first noble truth is suffering. The second noble truth is born out of desire. And the third noble truth is that it's born out of ignorance. And the fourth is there is a way out of it. And that is the eightfold path, the Dharma Chakra. It's very nice. We have had a talk on this, the 4 noble truths of Buddhism. And one can imagine, he came to that place where he gave the Sarnath, where he gave that talk. And it's very nice that one can feel that quiet vibration. Again, everybody was very nice, jovial. full of good humor. I asked, there was a guide who was taking us along, again, very nominal charges. And he says, I asked him, what's your age? He said, I am 94. So basically he was 49. We were just playing with numbers. So I got it. I said, oh, 49 you mean? He said, yes. So it was all good. So we came back. But the highlight of all the thing was, I had a talk at BHU, but most important was the Ganga boating and the Ganga Aarti. First day we saw the Ganga Aarti. India, rivers are worshipped. You have Saryu Aarti, which we have already seen in places. Ganga Aarti we have seen in Rishikesh, but again Ganga Aarti here. All the ghats, major ghats, you will have Aarti to Ma Ganga, and it's like she's a living goddess. And it's an elaborate Aarti. It's not 5-minute wala Aarti. It's good 2 hours Aarti. And it's such an elaborate ritual, and it can move us to the psychic depths. So that's why I feel, if you look at it superficially, you may wonder, what is there to worship about a river? But if you see another deeper way, everything that gives you life, river gives you life. You should worship. Worship means you acknowledge that there is the divine presence within which is giving you something. And that's what I find so beautiful about Sanatana Dharma, that everything is an object of worship. Everything is an occasion for becoming something sacred. So it's something very beautiful to see the Ganga Aarti. Elaborately they will arrange the ghats with number of lightnings, and if one cannot do anything else in Varanasi, just these 2 things. Ganga Aarti and boat on the Ganga is enough. So that was amazing experience. And there is food for the soul. So sometimes I do say, when people say how to, this psychic also needs food, because we have intellectual food, often a poisoned food. We have emotional food from all kinds of God knows sources, vital food, excitement, this, that. How to get spiritual food? Go to Himalayas, go to Ganga, just move around there. You will know about what, psychic food is. That's the place, Ganga, where Ramcharitmanas has been composed. So that's a book very dear to me. So I was very happy to be around with. And there are 84 ghats. I don't know of any place in the world where there are so many ghats. And each ghat has a story. And the boatman, an 18-year-old boy, he had a very nice way of taking around. So everywhere he will tell the name of the ghat, a little story associated with it. And then he would say, so this is where it is the Kal Bhairam Mandir. Do Namaskaram. He will make sure that we all did Namaskaram. It was such a beautiful thing to see him every time. Then we would, after 3-4 ghats, we started saying Namaskaram. So he would be very happy. So he was doing, and his bhava was so good. It was not just a job he was doing for money. Of course you need money, and people should give generously. These are people you should never, ever, bargain with. At least I feel, with old people, with people who are doing physical labor, we should never bargain. And God has given us, all of us, reasonable money. And of course, if you don't have money, it's a different story altogether. But these are the people with whom one should share. And all of them trace their genealogy. So he would say very proudly, I come from the Nishad Raj community. And then he went on to explain, do you know who is Nishad Raj? So I just kept quiet. Then he said, Nishad Raj is the one who made Rama, and in his hurry to say things, said, cross the Ganga. It was not Ganga, it was Saryu. I said, it's okay. Okay, Lord Rama crossed the Ganga, it's fine. Doesn't matter. But he remembers the story. So he feels very proud that his ancestors had come handy in the service of the divine. That bhav is so beautiful. See, that prevents you from many things. Why ancestry is important? People often say, what is there in a surname and why ancestry? If nothing else, when you speak about your ancestors so proudly, you feel happy about it. That, well, these are the ancestors. And he was so proud. He didn't say that, I am a Dalit or a neglected community. Nothing. He was so proud. I wish some folks should have come and heard. He was not saying, I'm a menial, laborer, Shudra, nothing. Technically, he would be that. He said, I belong, very proudly, I belong to the Nishadraj community, and my ancestors were the one who made Lord Rama cross the Ganga. And so he was so proud of it that you may be anybody, but you can't compare yourself to me because I have been in the service of the Lord. Now this bhav you find in India. And that is something so touching. So he took us all the way through all the ghats, and there you have this famous, Manikarnika Ghat, and where Mata Sati's there are different stories. But the one which I love is that when Shiva was moving around the quarters after the Sati's Atmadaha, then, not Atmadaha, but Yagya, she offered her old body in Yagya for the new creation. That story we have taken up. So her kundal fell there. And to keep that place intact, Vishnu has built a little well, and the kundal goes there, and which Shiva couldn't find. And there is a secret why Shiva couldn't find. The Shiva couldn't find because it's supposed to be there, and forever that place becomes a place which is burning with that Shiva's anguish and Mata Sati's tyag. So in that place, in Manikarnika, since how many, 1,000 years, but at least few hundred years for sure, that place is never void of a dead body. And not one dead body, two dead bodies. So count it in hundreds. Can you imagine? It's called as Maha Shamshan, because it is the place which bore both Shiva's anguish. I am putting now my understanding. Shiva's anguish for a creation that had rejected the Divine Mother. And yet the Divine Mother's compassion that even through her dead body she redeemed the earth. So Divine Mother sacrificed something of her kundal, and Shiva stops here and tries to look for that kundal. So that place is always burning. That ghat is 24 hours running. And it's a very nice feeling. I remember seeing all this earlier. It gives a kind of inner vairagya, but beautiful. Now they have put little bit shelter, but earlier you could see the pyres burning, and it was a very nice thing. It's a reminder. And then there is the other ghat which is supposed to be giving moksha, and that is Harishchandra Ghat. So Harishchandra Ghat is again a very interesting ghat because that's where King Harishchandra, you see what a lineage we belong to. For a dream, he has promised somebody something in a dream, and he must live up to that promise. He is a king. He could have easily denied. I don't care. But he has given his kingdom to Vishwamitra the sage in a dream. And Vishwamitra comes next day to claim it. And he says, yes, I remember. I was waiting for you. Otherwise I would have gone and fetched you. One of my favorite stories of extreme Indian, like tyag and tapasya. This is what India is about. If somebody asks, what is India a land of? I would say of tyag and tapasya, renunciation and sacrifice. If you don't have these elements in you, you will never understand India. To understand India, you have to have inside something of a tapasya and a tyagi. And then you understand everything in India is made for you to practice this. That's a long story. But then, as he's moving out, he says, hold on. You have given me the kingdom, but what about these clothes you are wearing on you? So he gives away his clothes, and then something is still left. He literally sells himself and becomes he works at a chandal's, the person who takes the dead bodies and puts them to fire. He becomes a menial at a chandal's place. All these people who talk about Shudra and all this nonsense have no clue what they are talking about India. The king, which king? He is the lineage of Raghu, ancestor of Lord Rama. That's how it goes. Raghukul Reet Sada Chaliyai Pranjay Parvachan na jai. So he sells himself. His wife works as a maid, and there is a son. And yet he keeps to the promise till the last moment. Such a story. And that's why there, Dome Raja, the man Chandal who places, the pyre, he's the main person to whom all the offerings will go. He's also regarded as somebody great. He's called as Raja. He's the king of that place, Dome Raja. Why? Because King Harishchandra had served there. Now imagine these stories, India of these stories. So finally, his last tapasya is where his wife has to burn their son because he has died of a snake bite. A very inspiring story. So she goes, and Harishchandra, her husband, once a king. His task is to collect the tax for burning the body. So he says, fine, but I need the tax. He says, but he's your son. He says, yes, but my duty is more than anything else. I am sad inside, but I cannot give up the work that is given to me. And so she says, okay, all that I have is on me is this sari, and I can tear off half of it as a, and gift it to you. And then all the gods appear, Shiva appears. And they say, we were taking the test of truthfulness from you. It reminds me of that story, truth is a hard conquest. So truth is so difficult. And Harishchandra is an example of somebody who walked the path of truth to its ultimate. And so he asks Harishchandra, what do you want? The story doesn't end here. He asks him a boon. What should a king who has lost everything ask at that point of time? He says, Lord, whoever comes here, grant him moksha. Even in that moment, he is thinking of others. This is the lineage of Lord Rama. And people doubt his existence. I mean, it's such a small, silly thinking. And so that place becomes blessed as Harishchandra Ghat. And then you have Dashashwamedh Ghat and all these places. Amazing, wonderful to go through that whole place. One last word about all the different akhadas. Now, that's where I remembered a whole story of the mother, not story, one of her experiences in agenda. So, there are some prominent spiritual movements which are missing. I would name them, which is good. But also I found there a little bit of, advertisement. After all, you're going there, you have your akhada, it's a special place. So there is that little bit. Nobody was advertising anybody to come in and get converted, that's true. But still, that little bit of thing is there. And each path, so it's a beautiful confluence not just of rivers, but of all the different strands of Indian culture. Confluence of different sects. Nobody is asking you, what is your caste? Nobody. You go take a bath, you are staying in one of the tents, nobody is asking. What's your caste? Nothing. When you are going to take food, what's your caste? This is important to emphasize because a lot of wrong propaganda has gone, narrative. Nobody. So, but I remembered, we have those Naga sadhus, all kinds of different paths. So a story, experience of the mother flashed in my head at that point of time. Whenever I try to understand things, I don't apply reason. I just stay quiet and pray to her, and what she reveals, that I'm sharing. So the mother reveals an experience where she is, and that's for me is the mention of Maha Kumbh or Kumbh in mother's writings. There is nowhere Kumbh mentioned otherwise. The word doesn't come. Shobito speaks about Triveni, that I have already spoken about, its inner mystic truth. So all the different saints and gurus are showing her their path. So they are opening a window and showing her, see how beautiful it is. And she sees a small strip of sky which they think is ultimate, and she just nods, it's okay. She doesn't say anything, but she's not fully satisfied. It's like seeing the same sky, but through, you see, as the window, through each window you will see one strip of sky. And you think that is the ultimate reality, because it's sky. Then she steps out of that window zone and she sees a man sitting there in below a tree, if I remember right, or just sitting in a purple robe. That's not so important. I mean, purple, of course, is an interesting color. It's the color of royalty. So she goes to this man. If you have to search, you have to type no path. So she goes there and asks him, she's looking at him, he says, why don't you taste my porridge, my dish which I have prepared? So mother says, oh, you have also prepared something, give me. So she takes the porridge or the dish and she says, it is very tasty. What is your path? And then she says, I have no path. It is somebody who has found the divine everywhere and in everything. That was the culminating feeling that all these are paths, each great in its own right, but each is going to a limited point. Whereas the mother is giving us a path that is everywhere and in everything, so which is of course beyond anything. One last little thing which I must mention, then, which again, unfortunately, that may be because I went late night to the Ram temple. I mean, prasad is a very integral part of temple culture in India. So you go, you come back, and you have prasad. And what is really a prasad is very interesting. So people say, what is prasad? Nobody is eating it. No, it's not like that. Sri Aurobindo gives a very interesting example. He says, when people brought their gifts to the king, you win a kingdom and then, the king sends gifts or people bring gifts. So what does the king do? He uncovers it and looks at it. And that's called as Nazarana. You have seen it. And then he says, distribute it or put it in the... So prasad literally is not that the deity you are feeding through the mouth and there is, going inside the gut. But you have brought something before the deity and here deity has seen it. Now when you distribute it, what is the difference? The difference is this, that in India, the term for body and the term for food are the same. The same term is used. If you go to the roots, annam. So food is annam, material world is annamay kosha. So when we take that prasad, what we are doing? Something which has been blessed by the deity, seen by the deity, partaken by the deity, because in Indian thought, ahar is not just the food you eat, but all you take in, through the senses, everything. Yes, that's what ahar literally means. Now when you take it, you are putting something of what the deity has touched, taken into your body. So it's not just about your soul that is being taken care of, but also your body. So there was one joke which went around, with which probably I'll stop, that or rather another little thing about what mother has spoken about it. So the joke was, when at a place they used to give this sweet in all these places, and the joke was, oh, he has taken 2, he has taken 3. I said, yes, but it's prasad. So it's good for the body even if it is sweet. So anyways, I was reminded of what Sri Aurobindo has said in the dining room. He has written that the food that you eat here has the mother's force in it. So this is a conscious invocation, of course, and Divine Mother is Divine Mother. But the idea of prasad is so beautiful that it's not just a gift from God, but it has been eaten, touched by God. And therefore, when we take it, we share something of His qualities, and it goes right into the material sheath in the Annamaya Kosh. So these are just some of the experiences. Of course, it's a whole bhandar, but we can stop here. Jai Ma.